We just thought we'd do a short video explaining and showing what we do at a 60-point check here on a used bike at Youles Motorcycles. We've chosen an 865 America to talk you through the test. Now obviously some things vary from bike to bike, so here obviously you can see Danny's got his protective gloves on here. We're changing the oil. Looking at the service history, if the bike's just been serviced, obviously we would check the oil and we wouldn't change it just for the sake of changing it. That'll go in the waste oil and be disposed of correctly. If you're removing the oil filter, change the oil filter along with the oil. When you've replaced the oil, you replace the sump plug washer as well to make sure that doesn't leave any sort of drips coming from the sump plug. That's always a good idea. The oil filter we would always use would be a genuine Triumph oil filter in this instance. And try and use genuine filters. You know, you're getting the standard quality of filter. Here is filling with the correct oil. We use Castrol oil. What we would normally do as well is fill it to pretty much where we know the level is going to be, and then we double check it again when we come back off road test, because you really need the bike actually upright to check the oil. This wouldn't be the best. So we know that the bike would take say 2.5 litres, we'd put 2.25 litres in and then just do the final top up after road test to get the exact level right. Here we're checking the tyre pressures, obviously to the manufacturer's spec on what the tyre pressures should be, and I don't know that for an 865 off the top of my head, which maybe I should. The tyre pressures are always written down there in the owner's handbook, and sometimes they're in a sticker on the chain guard or swinging arm anyway. Danny here is going to sort of jack the front of the bike up so they can check things like tyre condition, wheel condition, visually inspecting the discs. He's also looking for any dinks in the rim. He's looking for how the tyre's seated on the rim. He's looking for the direction of the tyre, making sure that the tyre's going in the right direction. And he's going to inspect the tyre, and now he's checking the front head bearings for play. Also, as he's doing quite a lot here all in one go. He's feeling the movement of the fork and the frame as the head bearings move from side to side. You would also feel any excessive notchiness at the time of doing that. Looking how the tyre's seated on the rim and any wear in the tyre. Strapping the front end now so that it can lift the rear of the bike. So trolley jack just in the middle there, jacked at the right place, will lift up and allow him to do the same checks on the rear wheel. So he'll obviously be looking again at the tyre depth, just give the wheel a spin, see how it turns. If the brake's binding, that gives you an indication on that straight away. He's looking at the alignment of that, everything there, you know, making sure that the rim's not dented. If the disc was really badly warped, I mean, you'd feel it on road test if it was slightly warped, particularly on the front. If somebody set off with a diff lock on or something like that, you'll feel it. Whilst the bike's jacked up, inspecting the chain, there's a little bit of rust on that chain on the outside, but that won't really matter. It's a sealed O-ring chain anyway, so just try and work a little bit of lubricant in there. He's put a rag there so that when he squirts it doesn't go all over everything. Here we're just gaining access to the battery. He's taking a cover off the side of the air filter, which you'll have to remove that to get to the battery. When we're doing the battery, what we're going to look at here is the terminals being nice and clean, good terminals, a good connection. Lube the terminals up a bit with a bit of white grease. He's also going to be looking for electrolyte level, although this one actually is a seal for life battery, so it's not, the electrolyte level is not going to be an issue. Tends to be on older bikes where the electrolyte's an issue. He's also make sure if you had a breather, the breather's routed correctly, and we're also going to check that the vehicle's charging. So put a multimeter on the battery and make sure you've got about 14.4 volts, which indicates that the vehicle's charging. He's checking the brake fluid level, the lever operation, making sure everything returns, cable routing. They do this so quickly because they're so used to doing it. Looking at the brake fluid again. Normally at this stage we'll be checking coolant levels. This is an air-cooled bike, so obviously we can't check the coolant level. He's checking the lights, indicators and horn. Notice he's turning the handlebars side to side, so if there's a pull in the loom or a pull on a switch or a wire's just not quite connected, you bounce it about a bit, giving it a little bit of stress, because if there is a little bit of stress on it and that causes a problem, it should show up. Usually come with an MOT, this one will because it's a 64 plate. Front and rear brake lights of course working, which is now a standard requirement on a motorcycle. So the headlamp aim will be checked at the MOT stage of doing it. So it's really, that's almost getting double checked, but they're so important and they can be intermittent at stages, so just doing that is the right way of doing it. The final part of the check is to road test the bike. Now that gives you obviously a lot of information on sort of how it feels on the road, the gears, how they work, how it goes through the gear. It's the only way to do it. You can do what you want on the ramp, but there's nothing like taking one out on the road and really making sure that it's right. We hope that helps you give some indication as to what we do on a 60-point check. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed this, it'd be great if you could like the video, follow the channel and tick the bell.